Beliefs about vampires, werewolves, witches, and wizards are widespread.
Exactly what is a serial killer?
Our house was 2 rooms, and there was 7 of us.
He held the bat like this.
That's why I have characters who sort of expose themselves.
And everybody always say, Coach Carter, Samuel Jackson is taller than you. I said, I know, but I think I'm better looking.
Well, thank you for making your way over here from Garrett Hall. I am Dr. Teray Lopez. I'm the Dean of the College of Business, and we always enjoy this opportunity during Business Week to bring people who've been successful in industry and bring them back to give our students the opportunity to hear their stories and perhaps find inspiration for things that they might want to accomplish and go on to do in their lives. So thank you all for being here, and I'm thankful to our participants in Business Week. So a couple little things I want to share with you before we move on to our program is at the end, we're going to open it up for questions. Be thinking of what questions you might have, because every person that asks a question goes into a raffle. We have 2 College of Business Stanley cups for you guys. So at the end, whenever you ask your question, be sure to give your name, give it clearly. We're going to write it down, put it into a raffle, and we'll right away immediately do a drawing for our Stanley Cups. I also want to thank a few people who make these things happen. Miss Linnell Crowell, many of you may know Miss Linnell, who helps make everything happen in the College of Business. So I'm thankful to Miss Linnell. Our grad assistants and student ambassadors who are all hanging out. I see them hanging out in the corners back there. Without their help and support, it would be impossible to get these things done. They're taking care of getting posters printed and running things back and forth and getting tables set up and getting you guys checked in. So our student ambassadors and the GAs in the College of Business really help make things happen as well. So I'm thankful to all of them. So let's give them a little round of applause. And then our faculty who are sprinkled throughout. Some of them I was picking on them because they're in the back row. But they help make these things happen as well and help get you guys over here. And because these things are really valuable. And sometimes you need a little extra motivation to make it from Garrett Hall to the theater. So thank you to them as well. Clap for them. And my last thank you is to First Guaranty Bank. We've had a partnership with First Guaranty Bank for many years now. We have a relationship in which we send students over there for internships who ultimately get jobs. And one of the wonderful things is we often have those alums come back and talk to us. So it's a very wonderful relationship. It's a very mutual relationship, and we support each other. And it's been going on for many years, and we're thankful to them. They're our sponsor for Business Week. And so I'm going to invite Mr. Eric Dorsch, who's the CFO of First Guaranty, to please come up, and he's going to invite our speakers that we have today. About to fall.
Thank you, Trey. Good morning, everyone. I'm Eric Dosh at First Guaranty Bank. We're again very grateful for our partnership here with Southeastern. I've had the pleasure of hiring many interns over the last several years, so thank you all, and I wish you the best in your career endeavors. We're one of the sponsors today, and they asked me to introduce your speakers. I'm going to short and to the point, and then you can listen to them. Our panel members today are Steve Cory and Maura Donohue. Steve Cory. Steve's being recognized this year as the Southeastern College of Business Distinguished Alum of the Year. Steve earned both his bachelor's degree in business administration and his master's in business here at Southeastern. Steve is president and co-owner of Cory, Tucker, and LaRoe, a bonding and insurance agency that specializes in the construction industry. If any of you have been driving through the construction St. Tammany along I-12, you've been driving through a project that Steve's company has insured. I know I've driven through there several times. Steve's very involved in both his industry and in the community. He serves as treasurer and board member for the Boys and Girls Club of Metro Louisiana. He currently serves on the board of directors for ACE, that's the Architecture, Construction, and Engineering Mentor Program of Greater New Orleans, the Southeastern Foundation, and the Southeastern College of Business. He has also previously served as a board member for the Construction Financial Management Association, Guaranty Savings Bank, and the Mississippi Valley Associated General Contractors. Finally, he previously served as president of the National Association of Surety Bond Producers and the Bayou and Pelican chapters of the Associated Builders and Contractors. Welcome, Steve. Ms. Maura. Maura has been a key member of the Donohue Favret since joining the company in 1981. She's an owner of the company and continues to serve as executive vice president. Maura is past chair of the board of directors of the United States Chamber of Commerce. That's the world's largest business federation, and is proud to have served 2 separate terms in that role. Maura is a former chair of the board of LABI, the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, former chair of Greater New Orleans Incorporated, and currently serves on the boards of Resource Bank, one of my friendly competitors, and the North Shore Community Foundation. Formerly, Maura also served on the boards of Blueprint Louisiana, the State of Louisiana Board of Commerce and Industry, the St. Tammany Parish Economic Development Foundation, and Habitat for Humanity St. Tammany West, and served on the advisory board of Entergy Louisiana. Maura has received many honors, such as she was twice named as Woman of the Year honoree by the New Orleans Publishing Group, Woman of the Year for St. Tammany West Business and Professional Women, Louisiana Center for Women in Government and Business Corporate Executive of the Year, and was also inducted in the Junior Achievement Business Hall of Fame. So welcome, Maura, and welcome, Steve, again. Thank you. There you go.
Thank you very much. So what we're going to do kind of a Q&A session today for this panel. And then, as I said, we're going to invite all of you to ask questions as well. So I'm thankful for Steve and Maura for being here. And so I'm going to ask them first just to give us a little background on how we heard all the great things that they've done, but how did they get there? And so I'm going to ask each of them to start with that.
Obviously grew up in New Orleans. Southeastern was my first choice for undergraduate school. I think my parents were surprised I got out of high school. And enjoyed everything about Southeastern. Met a professor my junior year named Bill Slaughter. And Maura, you may know Bill because he was on the Blueprint. Yes. And he had a great impact on me and got me really interested in business. And so I kept reading and getting the Wall Street Journal and reading books and taking every class I could with him. And my junior year, the school decided that they were going to start an MBA program. And so my dad didn't have a high school education. He had gone to work before finishing high school, and so he was big on education. So I went to him and I said, look, let's start an MBA school. And he said, well, I don't know if you can get in, but if you can get in, I'll pay for it. I said, perfect. So my grades shot up drastically and got in the MBA program, and it had a major impact on me. It gave me confidence. I enjoyed studying. We had some really good students. Tom Akers, who was an alumnus of the year and a very successful businessman and sponsors the leadership program here, and I kind of hit it off. We got to be really good friends. And my grandfather was in construction, and my dad was in construction. My dad told me if I went in the construction business, he would break my legs. So that was a little bit of a disincentive, although I used to work every summer for Bow Brothers, and I was fascinated by it. But he kept saying, insurance, 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 follow the money. So graduated from the MBA program, started looking for a job, and lo and behold, stumbled on a program that the Metropolitan Life Insurance Company was starting, and they just wanted to hire MBA, graduate MBA students. So applied for it, did a couple of interviews, and then they said, look, we're going to fly you to New York and let you interview in New York. Never been on a plane before. Flew to New York, flew into Manhattan, stayed at the Waldorf Astoria, went to the main office building, which was 1 Madison Avenue, interviewed with a bunch of people, and by luck, got the job. And then they sent me up there for about 6 months with a bunch of MBAs from all over the country, most of them from prominent schools in the Northeast. And guess what? My education stood head and shoulders in the sense that they learned some of the basic stuff. They made great connections in terms of the people that they were in school with, but they didn't learn any more than I did. So came back and sold life insurance for 3 years and hated every minute of it. Everybody was a prospect. And so I decided that this just wasn't going to work for me. I needed to find something that I really wanted to do and would be good at. So somebody told me about this woman who was really good at finding people jobs that they like to do. So I made an appointment with her, and I go in there to see her, and I'm going, this woman is old as dirt. Now, she's probably much younger than I am now. And she just starts asking me questions after questions after questions, and I'm rolling my eyes. This is going to be a complete waste of time. So we do that for about an hour and a half, and she says, I have the perfect job for you. Right. So she said, I don't know exactly what it is, but it has to do with bonds and construction. And the Travelers Insurance Company is looking for an underwriter, and you would be perfect. So I leave there thinking this is a waste of time. I'm on the way home, stop at the office. I call my dad, and my dad said, that's the perfect job for you. So most people don't know, but there's something called the Miller Act. And the Miller Act was passed in the 30s. I don't want to bore you with all the details, but it requires bonds on public work. So if you're a contractor and you're going to do a job for any public entity, federal, state, municipal, you have to post a bond from an insurance company which guarantees that you will fulfill the contract based on the time, based on the work, and that you'll pay all the bills of all the subcontractors. So essentially what we do is we write insurance policies, although it's not insurance, it's a bond, that guarantees the performance of that contract. And so we do an extensive amount of analysis on construction companies, their capabilities. We call it the 3 C's: capabilities, character, and capacity. And so I did that for 3 years at the Travelers Insurance Company and loved every minute of it. It was just a blast. The people I work with, the construction companies we dealt with, the projects we were involved in. Well, lo and behold, a company that was in the bond and insurance agency side of things, because the agencies find the contractors, they actually write the bonds, but they lay it off on insurance companies, just like you have an agent for your insurance. So I go to work for them, leave the Travelers, which sort of wasn't exactly sure this was the right thing for me, since selling life insurance was not something I enjoyed. Totally different experience, except I'm there 2 months, and the firm I'm with decides that they're going to break up. And I said, oh, isn't this great? I got 2 kids at home, a mortgage, and I'm about to be out of a job. So I called my boss at Travelers, and he said, look, we haven't hired anybody yet, so if it doesn't work out, you can come back. Well, as luck would have it, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. The partners split up. I decided to go with a group that I felt comfortable with. They gave me a little bit of ownership in the company to go with them. I met my partner, Pam Tucker, who was the CFO of the firm, the original firm, and she came with us when we left in May of 1981. In 1987, we bought the other 2 partners out, and so we've been in business essentially 40 years, and it's been a blast. I love every minute of it. My clients are my friends. I get to know what's going on within the community in terms of construction, whether it be commercial, residential, highway, bridges, dredging contractors, you name the kind of contractors we're involved with. So it's just a lot of fun, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. And it's just by the luck of everything falling in the right place, I've been blessed. So that's my story.
And who is your favorite contractor?
Donohue family.
I've known.
Do I have others?
No, well, that's okay. Steve's company, Steve and his company are our bonding agent and also our insurance agent, and have been for a long time. And we're friends, business associates, go to church together, neighbors.
Yep.
Goes on and on. Have had several bottles of wine together with our spouses. Anyway.
You have better wine than I do.
Oh, okay. So, Donohue Favret, if you recognize that name, we built the dormitory that's on campus right now, the newest of the dormitories, a few years ago. So my story is I was born in Louisiana. I've lived in Louisiana my entire life. Only time I left New Orleans, I was raised in New Orleans. The only time I left New Orleans was to spend 5 years at USL in Lafayette. I was on the 5-year plan, not the 4-year plan. In sociology, and here I am in construction, so don't be discouraged if this is not what you're going to end up in. You're going to do something else. It's okay, because it takes a little bit longer to know what we want to do. I had residential construction in my background, but ended up moving to the North Shore a long time ago, before anyone in this room was born. Maybe not you. Yeah, moved to the North Shore and ended up in commercial construction, and that was back in 1981. And I loved construction. I've always loved construction, and ended up in commercial construction with a gentleman who is now my husband, Jack Donohue. It was Jack Donohue Contractors at that time. He said he locked himself in a room for 3 days to figure out what the name of the company was going to be, and he came out with Jack Donohue Contractors. It's pretty scary, huh?
Very original.
Yeah, very original. And that was in 79. 81, I joined the company and have been with the company ever since. So fast forward several years, our company has grown over the years. We now are around $100 million a year construction firm. In this entire region, from Texas all the way to Florida, we're licensed in all of those states. But we've been very blessed in that most of our work has been in Louisiana, in particular our region. So we've been very fortunate to not have to go out of state looking for work. So around in the mid-90s, as we were growing, we decided we needed a business development department, and that was going to be me. I had to figure out what business development was for starters and how to market our company. And one of the things that had occurred to me was that finding new clients was important. You don't continue. A lot of people build one building in their existence for whatever company they have. But we needed to find people who were going to build multiple buildings and larger clients that we could do business with them. And all of that is based upon relationship. Relationships are important. The job you perform, whatever you're doing, the job you perform for your clients is part of your business, should be part of your business development plan, in that you need to make them happy so that when they're looking for you to perform, someone to perform another job similar to what you've done, they come to you first because you did a good job for them. So that the repeat business based on those relationships is critical to whatever you are going to do. Don't forget that. If you get nothing out of what I say today, your relationships are important, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. So I had to figure out where I was going to find those people, and what I decided was the network of chambers of commerce, not just the local chambers of commerce in our region, but in New Orleans and in other cities, would expand our footprint so that we would know people in these other regions and be able to turn to them for business also. So I set out and discovered the Chamber of Commerce, St. Tammany Chamber of Commerce, which has been several iterations. Currently, it's we combined all of the chambers in our parish, and we are the St. Tammany Chamber of Commerce. There used to be an East and a West. We pulled it together, and it's now one. That's
Maura,
where
can I ask you to explain to them what a Chamber of Commerce does? I had somebody ask me this recently, so. Yes.
So the Chamber of Commerce serves two purposes for you. Networking. Networking 101 happens at the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce gives you an opportunity in your community. Now, there is a local, there is a state chamber, and there's the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, only one U.S. Chamber of Commerce. I've been on the board of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce for 26 years. I served 2 terms as chairman of the board, one of the most rewarding experiences of my life, and certainly was a trajectory for me and for our company moving forward. But the Chamber of Commerce is a networking opportunity for business owners, business to business, to meet each other. And you want to keep business local. You're looking in a room of business owners within your community that you can do business with and establish relationships with. So it's a business development opportunity for you. But the chambers, local, state, and U.S. chambers, serve as the voice of the business community. Small businesses in particular, though large businesses are also members. Large businesses are able to afford their own legal department, and any legislation, local, state, or national, any legislation that affects your ability to open your doors every single day, the local chamber, state, and the national chamber should know about and should be in your capital, defending you and your ability to conduct your business, period. It's amazing the legislation that people think of in Baton Rouge and in our nation's capital that affects our ability to conduct business. It might be a great idea, but when you put a face on what they're suggesting you do and go through the logistics of what it's going to mean to implement that, it's detrimental to your business. So that's the purpose for me that the chambers serve, networking and also being your voice in Baton Rouge for us or in Washington, D.C. on the national level. Small businesses can't afford legal departments, so we pay dues to a Chamber of Commerce to represent us when we're busy building buildings and he's taking care of insurance needs and bonding needs of people. They're there being our voice and serving us. So thank you. I appreciate you asking that question. I just assumed everybody knows the Chamber of Commerce. Did I miss anything? No, that was good. So I started out with the local Chamber of Commerce, and that's when I realized not only was it a networking opportunity for us to meet people in our community and our region, but also that these people would defend us in local issues or state issues, national issues. So I kind of got bit by the chamber bug at that time. I served as chairman of the board of that chamber. My husband served as chairman of the board of the state chamber, which is LABI, L-A-B-I. Eric mentioned that earlier. Louisiana Association of Business and Industry serves that role in the state capitol, representing us and being the voice of the business community. He was serving in that role, and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce was going through a transition at that point in time with a new CEO. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce used to have 50 board members. That was it. It was big businesses, Dell Computers, Bloomberg, the airlines, Xerox, IBM. I'm just, the muckety-mucks. And Tom Donohue was his name, no relation. When he came to the U.S. Chamber, he decided it needed to be more representative of all business, the big businesses and small businesses, because the fact of the matter is the majority of businesses in this country are small businesses. A trick question, how many Fortune 500 companies are there? Hello, 500. That's it, 500. We have millions of businesses. You get a gold star. There are millions of businesses here in this country. There's only 5 Fortune 100s. That's who most of the U.S. Chamber members were. So he decided to expand membership to include 50 additional people, 1 from each state, to represent the interest of their state. For us, it's oil and gas and et cetera, et cetera. So because of my husband's association with the state chamber and mine with the local chamber, the state chamber asked me if I would consider taking that on. So I interviewed and we talked and decided it was a good fit. And that was, for me, that was a trajectory in my personal career, but also our business development efforts. Because we actually did work for people that were on the board with me of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, some of our most profitable work from someone from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. So your network, you decide how large your network's going to be. It could be regional, if that's what you choose to make it. It could be statewide. It could be on the national level. You make that choice, set your goal, and go for it. So for the last 26 years, I have served on the board of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and did my stints as chair, which gave me the opportunity to travel around the country, visit other states. Listen to this. My first year serving as chairman of the board was 05 and 06. I took the chairmanship in June of 05, and 2 months later, Hurricane Katrina hit. And people across the country, as I traveled with the chamber, people across the country would say one of two things. Are you all still underwater? Back in Louisiana, hello? What news do you watch? And the other question was, I guess things are back to normal now, 2 weeks after the storm. No, we're not back to normal. So the opportunity it gave me was to tell the true story about what was going on in Louisiana and use the microphone as a way to communicate to the country what was going on here. We were not flooded out of existence. We still were conducting business, and it was an opportunity for people to come to Louisiana and develop further their own companies, come take advantage of the opportunity of redevelopment here. And then my second term as chair was COVID. I said, you know, what is the luck? 19 and 20, I was chair, and it ended up being a good year for some civility and calm and just communicating across the country what was going on in all the regions of the country. Anyway, so my Chamber of Commerce experience is part and parcel of who I am and what I believe. My networking opportunities with the local, all three of the chambers, but also primarily, and it became a passion to me, and it still is today, as Steve is the same way, and I know you feel the same way, that politically it's been a great experience for me to be involved in politics, because years ago, Lobby, which is the state chamber, their motto was get into politics or get out of business, because the decisions that are made in the state capitol and in the nation's capital affect your ability to open your door every single day, and you need to be aware of it. And I've gotten acutely aware of it, and am very involved politically in what goes on in the state and also in the nation's capital. You can do one of two things politically, and if you are going to go into business, you need to do one of these two things. Take this away with you also. You either financially support a candidate who represents you and your business interests, or you become a candidate. You've got one of two choices. If you don't take part in one of those two things, shame on you. And what happens to your business is to the wind. It's in the air. Somebody else is controlling it. You need to have your face and your voice in that arena. And we're in a campaign cycle right now politically, and it's been contentious, and we'll all be glad when it's over with, but it's something we have to do. So don't hesitate to do that. So fast forward, here we are today. Is that okay?
No, that's great. Thank you. So one of the things I want to point out, the theme, if you didn't pick up on that, is the importance of community, the importance of relationships. And one of the things I do want to point out, as many of you are thinking about your future and your careers and where you're going to go, and you hear in your classes, because I know you're hearing this all the time, how important your network is, how important relationships are. But what often is the question, I know when I was in your shoes, was, well, how do we get there? What does that look like? And what does that look like as a 22, 23, 24-year-old getting out of school and where do I go next? So one thing I do want to point out as we talk about chambers of commerce, I'm on the board of our Tangi Chamber of Commerce. Dr. Mike Budden, who's back there, was former chair of the board of the Tangi Chamber of Commerce. And these are voluntary positions. So at the local level, at the state level, I'm not sure about the national level, but it's voluntary positions, it's not paid. You are giving your own personal time for these things. And there are opportunities for, people who are young graduates getting out to get involved right away in some of these opportunities with the chamber. So Maura shared how the chamber has impacted her life, but as you're talking about these things, there are opportunities that you can get involved as well. So think about those. So I'm gonna bring it over to Steve, and Maura shared some of the significant community service that she's done professionally within the profession. Can you share some of the things that you've done? I know you've been on some boards as well.
When I first got into the agency side of the business, I kind of looked around and said, well, where are you going to get to know who the real movers and shakers are in the construction business? I was really, I knew how to underwrite, but did I really know how to go out and generate business for the agency? And one of the things, too, that I failed to mention is my partner and I are exact opposites. She is very introverted, very smart, and so she is the brains of the operation. And so she's the one who keeps me between the lines, or at least attempts to. So what I started kind of figuring out was what I needed to do was join construction organizations. AGC, Associated General Contractors of America, ABC, Mississippi Valley, all those different things that we would have monthly meetings. I could go to those meetings. I could meet people. I could introduce myself, tell them a little bit about the company, get to know them, and in a very low-keyed way. And then another organization that had a major impact on my career was the National Association of Surety Bond Producers, which is a relatively small group because there's not a lot of people on the insurance side who do bonds and insurance for contractors like we did. And I went to my first national meeting, and what I wanted to do was seek out the people who were really successful in the business by reputation, by volume of business, by character, all the things that mattered to me, and what made them tick. And the interesting thing to me about they were every shape and size, every degree of education, just totally different. But the one thing that they all had in common about the business was a love and a passion for it. That's what set them apart from everybody else. And then so I'd go to all these other meetings, and the way to get involved was to join a committee, get on a committee that I could at least contribute to, learn about the organization, and have an impact. And every time I did that, as much time as it took away from my business, I got back tenfold in relationships and ultimately business and a personal sense of worth and growth, and didn't regret any of it. Every one of them have been a major impact, and as it would have in most cases, not unlike Maura, you get involved and you learn and you meet people, and the next thing you know, you're sort of in that group of people who are going to lead and give the organization direction and impact. And it is time consuming, but there's just this great sense of accomplishment that you can only do so much as an individual. But when you get with a group of like-minded people who are passionate and committed to something, there's nothing you can't accomplish as a group if you put your mind down to it. And that's the thing that I think a lot of these organizations, whether it be, like Maura talked about, the chamber, or these industry-specific organizations, or even charitable organizations. Boys and Girls Club's got a great mission, We have a major impact on different communities, especially like on the North Shore. People don't realize there's some real pockets of economic issues, and we need to address those. And school helps, but aftercare and the ability to give these kids exposure in summer camp, the ACE program that was mentioned, it's architects, contractors, and engineers. We get young professional people from those three disciplines. We're in 3 different schools in the inner city of New Orleans. They get credit for courses that we give them before school. Juniors and seniors who are interested in any of those 3 disciplines. They do projects, they get to go visit job sites, they meet architects, they meet engineers, they contractors, people that they would never associate with on that level. They're just ordinary people. They get to feel that these are just ordinary people who work hard, and you can be one of them if you want to put the time in and do it. And if they'll enroll in a 4-year curriculum, we'll help them with a scholarship that we put together through the ACE program. So there's always this sense of, I've been extremely blessed, let me give something back, and at the end of the day, it's amazing what an impact you can have, and it's a very worthwhile experience. And you meet a lot of great people who you end up, whether you do business with them or not, you're friends, and it's a great way to meet people and experience great relationships that last a lifetime. I'll be honest, I didn't do business with Donohue Fabric for the 30 years I was in the business. I knew Jack and Bob. They were great friends. They had a very good agency relationship that dated back to when Jack first started the company. But I always knew, and they always told me, when and if our agent retired, we're going to do business with you. And we had a lot of fun along the way before we did business. It was a personal relationship. It was always about friendship, but we had so many things in common. And the way we did business and the way they do business just was a perfect match. So just kind of some of the way I summarize what it does for me through the associations.
So, you know, part of that too is you hear that saying, and I don't know exactly what it is, but you are the 10 people you spend the most time with, or however that saying goes. And it sounds like from the experiences you've had in the chamber and from the organizations you volunteered, you're surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded that can help propel you, and you can all move forward. So you're both very busy. I know just, you know, knowing Steve for a while now and getting to know Maura, I know you're both very busy. You have a lot going on. I will say Steve is, my experience with Steve is he is one of the best people I've been around at developing relationships. And the few times that we've been around each other at different events, we were recently at the GNO Summit together and then for another event together, and he's introducing me to people, and every person he's introduced me to has been some of the most interesting people that I have met. And it was really part of the reason it made me start thinking of the theme of this conversation. I'm like, how do you get there? What's that point? How do you get that point? And you're both very busy. How do you make a decision about what organizations you join? And thinking specifically about philanthropic opportunities, because you're both very involved in Boys and Girls Club, and you've got American Heart Association and several organizations. How do you make that decision? Everybody's busy. You don't have time to do these things. You have work to do. How do you choose how you spend your time specifically in your philanthropic organizations?
Is that on now? So from the philanthropic aspect for us, you tend to get involved in the organizations that you personally have experience with. American Heart Association, my husband had double bypass open heart surgery years ago, and the Heart Association is certainly part of our heart because of, he's still here, and I'm delighted that he is. So Heart Association, for me, American Cancer Society, I'm a cancer survivor, so American Cancer Society. Habitat for Humanity for us is big. We're in construction, so for us, part of giving back is taking part in the the concept of home ownership for people who need a roof over their head and a secure environment to raise their children, because that's part and parcel of how those kids are going to be successful, is they're safe in their environment. So Habitat for Humanity, we've been, for the last 20 years, we've been active annually in whatever goes on with Habitat for Humanity. We shut down the office and build a house for somebody who's in need of a house. And the North Shore Community Foundation, which Tangipahoa Parish is part and parcel of, North Shore Community Foundation takes people of means and combines them with people with resources and means, and combines them with people of need, and transfers that wealth to those folks, or those opportunities to those folks. North Shore Community Foundation, I think this is 17 years for the foundation, has made that connection with about $27 million of wealth in helping those less fortunate. So North Shore Community Foundation is maybe a bigger umbrella over all of the other ones that I mentioned, and many, many other organizations. So one of the things I always talk about from the business perspective is being in business and being profitable is not a bad thing. You're not the enemy because you're profitable, because that P word, profit, is what allows you to be philanthropic, the other P word. You can't be philanthropic unless you have the means to be philanthropic. Isn't that right? Steve is no stranger to that concept. He and his company have their hearts in the right place. And it's an important part of being a successful business person. You've heard it said that when you die, you're not taking it with you. There's not a trailer behind you that's going to take your wealth with you to wherever we're going next. You use it. You use it for your family. You provide for, if you're a person of faith, you take care of your commitment to your church, but you share with your community. And you know, there's a benefit to that. That it's good for you to do that, because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to take care of each other and help each other. It comes back. It comes back around, because your reputation in the community is someone who cares for those in your community, right? And so that it comes back. It pays back tenfold what you put into it, and it's important. I wanted to make a point about. I forgot.
Well, I would say something too, is that, you know, there's two things. There's the proverbial time and the treasure. So when you first get out of school, it's not like you have money falling out of your pockets because you get a decent job. So the impact is not about necessarily giving money. It's about giving time and getting involved. And it's the proverbial do the right thing and don't worry about the money, and it'll take care of itself. And when you get in these organizations and you start putting in the time and you start doing things for the right reasons, and you meet the people who are doing the same on their side, guess what? The money starts coming. The business starts falling into place. Everything starts becoming easy. And, you know, in our business, we probably have, I don't know, maybe 300 clients, all very successful construction companies, like not necessarily as big as Donohue Favre. And so we get asked to donate to a lot of different businesses, different charities. And we don't necessarily have the means to donate a lot to all of them, but we can get involved. We can do what we can, and it always comes back to us threefold. But in the beginning, your involvement is the key, and you'll figure it out. What are the organizations and what are the people that you like to be associated with and have an impact on? And that, I guarantee you, will come back to you.
We do an annual golf tournament at our company, and the proceeds from that we give to charity. We're doing one October 26th this year. We raised anywhere from $80,000 to $100,000, and we have the nonprofits in our community. To Steve's point that maybe you can't write $100,000. Who in here can write $100,000 check to somebody? Raise your hand. I don't see any hands going up. But we can raise that money and share that money with the nonprofits who are interested in grants. And Steve plays our golf tournament every year, and we pick out however many nonprofits to support. So to Steve's point, you may not have the money to do that, but you have an idea on how to make that happen, and a golf tournament is a good way to make that happen and share that money with those people. And it comes back to you. You do that for the nonprofits, and it comes back to you in your reputation, and people look upon you as a company and a person of integrity, and that's who they want to do business with. So you're not doing it for that purpose, but there's a payback on it. It does come back, just like you said. Just like you said.
Well, how do you do that? You meet a lot. Well, I meet a lot of people in my role, and I'm always trying to figure out how to keep track, how to keep up.
I remember.
Good.
I'm going back. I'm picking up where she left off. So as we've come out into the business world, relationships for us was always face-to-face. It was lunches, it was meetings, it was events, it was, association meetings, whatever it was. It was always a face-to-face. As time went on, it got to be more social media, it got to be emails and maybe phones and Zooms and Microsoft meetings. COVID sort of made us take a step back in those relationships because we weren't doing face-to-face. We were going Microsoft and Zoom meetings, but you lose a piece of those relationships doing that face-to-face on the computer. Facebook, who's got Facebook? Everybody's hand goes up. Who's on LinkedIn? Okay, good. So Facebook is more the social piece, and that's fine. LinkedIn is more of a business piece, and it's important that you each have LinkedIn, because LinkedIn right at this point in time, and I don't know what's going to take its place, maybe something has already because it happens like that, but you need a good presence on LinkedIn for business contacts. You may do the Facebook social, and that's fine, but and you've probably heard this already, and you'll hear it again from me. One of the first things that we do when people come in and apply for a job with our company, besides check references, we go to Facebook, we go to social media and see what is posted on your pages. If we don't like what's on your page, we don't even bring you in for an interview. So whether you're a junior, senior, maybe even freshman, sophomore, it's really, really important. Trust me, we look at that. It's really important to keep that page, or if it's not already clean, clean it up. Clean it up soon and keep it clean, because that's one of the biggest references we look to in deciding who we're going to hire. So think about the pictures that you have posted out there on parties that was so much fun and you caroused, and there's proof of it out there. It's a bad indication to an employer that you may be missing work on Mondays, you may be taking off on Fridays because of whatever you've done over the weekend. So just a piece of advice.
Yeah, one of the things that, I can tell you that people used to say I made my living with lunches and dinners. And that's not totally true, but I do a lunch 3 or 4 times a week. I probably eat out 2 to 3 nights a week still with clients or people who come in town. I'm not going to say it's, I enjoy it, but it's still work. I take it very seriously in the sense, where are we going to go? What kind of atmosphere do I want to create? I'm going to watch what I drink, what I order. I like to go to places, as Maura knows, like a Galatoire's or something, where I know the waiters and the staff, and I can create the right environment. And even for lunch, I try to do that. And you can gauge a lot about somebody, about how they order, how they treat the staff, what they eat, just a little bit about their personality. And one of the secrets is make it about them. It's not about you. They could care less. Really, people like to talk about themselves. And if you'll just take a step back and not try to sell them and let them try to sell you, people like doing that. Now, they want some take-home out of it, so you need to always be looking for information, what would be valuable. We were talking about that on the way here. I went to a conference yesterday in Baton Rouge. They had a national economist. I got a piece that I read this morning in the Wall Street Journal about all the signs of a recession coming. People want information. They want take-home value. So don't just treat it like it's just a good time. If you want to make it work, put some time into it. Think about what you want to accomplish, and it'll make a big difference. Even to the point where, as you brought up COVID, so look, I like to be in person. I like to talk one-on-one. I like to gauge people's reaction. Now we're doing Zoom calls. Well, how can I make Zoom calls effective, you know? So I hated talking to people who dogs were barking, kids were coming in and out, in their living room or some just, someplace in their house. Well, I wanted to have my Zoom calls in my office. I wanted in a high-rise office building, create the right backstop, have it at my desk, door closed. I'm going to pay 100% attention to the people who are on the Zoom call. I'm going to let them know I'm taking notes that I'm taking this seriously. Where other people, they were on the call because they had to be, and they weren't really paying attention because there was so many distractions going on. Well, to me, that sends the message. Now, look, I'm old school. I still get up every morning, wear a coat and tie, and I can always take the tie off. I can always put a pair of jeans in my trunk if I want to change. But my theory is that if the phone rang and I had to go see somebody right away, I didn't have to worry about how I was dressed. I'd rather be overdressed than underdressed. I wanted to create the right persona. Not that I think I'm better or than anybody else, but I want them to know I take it seriously. I'm going to represent them to insurance companies and different owners. And who would you rather to have represent you than somebody who's going to at least try to look the part and communicate and understand you? And then what I like to do with my clients, and I tell them all the time, I can sell you, but nobody sells you better than you do. And so if I can not necessarily create a little bit of the right environment, but help you create that environment and prepare you for what I think are going to be the key selling points to make a deal work for an underwriter or whatever, I want to play that role and tee it up for you and let you run with it. And guess what? When you get out of the meeting, they go, "Oh, man, you did a great job." No, I didn't. I set you up. You did the great job. And that's what sells. That's what works. People like that kind of stuff. And that creates relationships. Because you start looking for the things that you like about people rather than the things that you don't like about somebody. And we all have them. I mean, half the time I get up and look in the mirror and go, "Oh, no, who's this guy? How did he get this old?" But, that's just some of my thoughts about it.
Steve makes a good point. What we have learned over the years is that when in networking opportunities, you wasted a networking opportunity if you don't figure out a way to encourage that person to do business with you. And what we've learned over the years is that you don't just leave meetings and say, how much you enjoyed. And face-to-face meetings are so much better than Zoom, email, text, anything else that you can do. That face-to-face is important. And it's more effective, isn't it? Because you got control over that situation. But to leave a meeting and just encourage someone that, next time you're building something, we sure would like the opportunity to bid on it for you. That's not enough. What you need to do is ask what it takes for them to do work with you? What is important to you? What can I do that will allow us the opportunity to build that building for you? What does it take? When you ask people a direct question like that, and it's similar to what you setting people up to talk about their business, a similar concept in that you're making them define what it will take to do business with you, and it gives you those things to work on, whatever that might be, and you may already have that under your belt, but it gives you the opportunity to present to them that, you know, we are aligned and we're the right person to do business for you. So it's all about those relationships and what you do with them.
Okay, we have a few minutes left, so we're going to open the floor to some questions. Ian is here, and I'm not sure who else we have. Is it Bryce back there? Walker back
I have one
there?
thing too. Teray had put some questions down, and how do you build relationships when you first go to work for a company? And my theory was you want to find the people who are the movers and the shakers in that organization. And one of the simple ways I found was get in early and stay late. There's a group of people who are going to get in early and hit the ground running, and if you can get a little piece of their time before they get wrapped up in their day, it's unbelievably invaluable to you. You can hit the high points, they can tell you what's going on, and then I used to stick around after everybody was going home and see the people who were still there, and they can't wait to unload on you about what happened in their day, what went right, what went wrong, and what do I have to do tomorrow? And you can build those relationships. And if your goal is to go up the ladder in that organization, try to make everybody else look good, especially your boss and especially the people that you're with. Because if you go in there and they think you're just going to step all over them to get to that next level, it ain't going to happen. They'll make sure it doesn't happen. So go there to help, and it's for the right reasons. Help them to look good, and you'll look good, and help your boss look good, and he'll take care of you.
Just wanted to remind everybody, when you ask a question, please say your name clearly. Ms. D is going to write your name, putting it in our little raffle so we can do a drawing for our cups. So raise your hand if you have a question. We have 2 mics. We have a mic here, and then we actually have this is a fancy throwable mic. You can actually, if you're up for it, we can actually toss it to you. So if you're up for that.
Hi, I'm Brooke Saunier. This is for Miss Donohue. I know you mentioned the Chamber of Commerce, and I was like, what are some beginning steps to becoming involved in that for someone who has like zero background with that in general?
As a college student or beyond?
Yeah, college. I'm graduating in May, so either.
I would go introduce yourself to the folks at the Chamber of Commerce. You can request a summer job, part-time job, holiday job, an internship, whatever, to get into the door. But Chamber of Commerce is just a matter of membership. Dues could be $250 for the year to belong to the chamber for a company of maybe 5 or less employees, and I'm guesstimating that's about what it is here too. So once you're a member, any events they have, you're welcome to attend. A good thing to do is to try to serve on committees of the chamber, because it exposes you to committee members and board and full membership, and to attend as many events as you can. I think you all have business after hours events where it's just a little social hour or so after work, held at somebody, maybe the bank, held at the bank, First Guarantee Bank, wherever it's held, it's an opportunity to go socialize with a glass of water, a soda, glass of wine, whatever it is you want, and just have conversation with people.
Thank you.
I'll add a little bit from student standpoint. Often in the College of Business, we will share opportunities where we're looking for volunteers to help. We recently had Chilling with the Chamber a couple weeks ago, and we shared that out and said if anybody is willing to volunteer and help. And so as a student, that gives you an opportunity to engage with people like these folks from a volunteer standpoint. A lot of times we need that extra little help to guide people, direct people, set things up, take things down, those kinds of things. So be looking for that. And if you in particular, if you're interested in getting involved in the Tangipahoa Chamber, come to me. I keep a list of people who are willing to volunteer and help for those things as a student. And then, of course, as you graduate, go on and become a member, or encourage your organization to become a member. If you work for a company, go ask them, say, are you a member of one of the chambers? I'm happy to volunteer. I'll tell you, one of the things I've learned is, there's never too many volunteers, ever. So if you ever wonder if you should step up. Don't hesitate. There's never too much help, ever. Another question.
Hi, my name's Grant Vickner. This question can be directed to both Maura and Steve. Do either of your companies have a working relationship with Dash Lumber and Supply in New Orleans?
Not that I know of.
That's a good question for our estimating department.
Not for you? Okay.
I'll ask this question, should we?
Yeah.
I personally think they're a great lumber company.
Okay.
Because?
I've worked with them before my father worked for them, with local theater companies, and my father's now the warehouse and shipping manager there.
Do they do commercial or residential or
both?
Both.
I texted him during the presentation, and he said he's worked with Donohue Favreau before.
I'm embarrassed to say that's not my department. I'm on the business end of it, the construction end, but I will make sure to put in a good word for Dash when I get back to the office, that they make sure they're calling Dash for quotes.
All right, thank you.
Promise. Tell your dad.
I have a question for Mr. Steve. They say you're like the best networking guys. What are some tips on that exactly? Like, if you walk into like a big business thing, like, what's your first thoughts? Like, how am I gonna network with these people?
Yeah, that's really a good question, because now I'm surprised now how many people when I go to something I run into that I know. But when I first started, I'd go into a room and I didn't know anybody. So I would just kind of walk around the room and gauge different people, and try to find, if there was somebody just standing there by themselves, I'd just go up and introduce myself and start the conversation. One, it made me feel better, and I assumed made them feel better if they were standing by themselves. And then sometimes it's a little awkward when there's a group of people talking and then you're just going to walk up and you don't know anybody. That's a little difficult to do. But you just kind of wait for the right opportunity. If you're watching them and all of a sudden the conversation slows down or somebody's not talking, and I would just go up and introduce myself. And I find now where I'm in an organization and I already know most of the people, and somebody comes in there and they look kind of like the lone wolf, and they sort of feel a little awkward. Well, I'll go up and introduce myself, and say, hey, look, I'm Steve Cory, and I've been a member of this organization for 20 years, and, who are you, and, what do you, and it's funny how it just keeps adding and adding people. And to me, if you listen and make it about them, and you can ask questions, and it's amazing how many times you can find things in common with people. Like, I was kind of amazed when we were with Lucius McGee. Now, if you notice how many buildings around here have McGee on it, his grandfather was a legislator and passed the bill to start this school. And then his dad was a doctor, and everybody in their family was a doctor, except his dad was a lawyer. His dad was the one who wasn't a lawyer. And then he ended up in Ruston, and it's a long story. Well, I work out with a guy with Victoria's, would know Mark Milton. Probably heard his name. We all have nicknames where we work out at 5 o'clock in the morning. And so he told me about Lucius McGee having some connection to Southeastern, which we had no idea. And then, so he said he could get him down. Well, he comes down, and he happens to be on the board of the Boys and Girls Club up there. I'm on the Boys and Girls Club down here. His best friend was Jeff James with J.B. James, a client of mine. If you cross the new Chafuncta Bridge on I-12, he did all that work. And I'm real close to Jeff. So all of a sudden, somebody who I have no connection to, now you have all these other connections. And that's all it takes to start building that relationship. And then the first thing I want to do is I want to take him to my favorite restaurant so I can get him at dinner and build off that relationship. And it's not that we'll ever do business together, but he could potentially have a major impact on this university through his philanthropic foundation and the people he knows around the country. So look, that's great for me. It couldn't have been a better relationship. And I like the guy. He's friendly. He, it was just all good conversations. And if he's friends with Jeff James, he can be a friend of mine because Jeff and I have so many things in common. Just small things that happen.
One of my first meetings at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, a long time ago, there was an orientation held for the new board members who were present, and I walked into this room, and I was pretty nervous. U.S. Chamber had Michael Dell Computers on the board. Michael Bloomberg is on the board, the CEO of Delta Airlines, and I'm thinking, what am I doing here with my little tiny company? And this one little voice, and I walked in the room, and a gentleman said to me, "Do you know what the coffee pot is?" He thought I was staff. Because I'm female. And I lost my intimidation, and I got a little, not angry, but a little, taken back, and said, "I don't, but let's go find it together, and I'll tell you what I do for a living, and you can tell me about your company." I rolled my sleeves up and decided that we were going to level that playing field. And guess what? I am still with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and he's not.
All right, I think we're about at time. I did want to just add a little bit to that. One of the things that you'll learn as you graduate and you start going to professional networking events, everyone's there to network. It's not like when you go to, a social event, or it's a little different. People are there to meet other people. So there will normally be someone like Steve or Maura who recognizes somebody's new has come into the space, and they're going to go out and talk to you and welcome you in, invite you in. That's been my experience. I think also some important things is looking at that body language. You can tell when people are having a private, kind of more serious, their body language is turned off, they're closed off. So watch the body language. Look for people whose body language is more open, their shoulders are open to invite you in. But also keep in mind, that's why they're there. They're there to network. They are there to meet other people. And so don't feel so self-conscious about it. Put yourself out there and 100% be interested in other people. I do it. I get in there and I want to tell people about me just because I feel like, I'm trying to let them know about me. But we know really how you build a connection is being interested in other people. So ask them questions. Don't worry so much about going in and telling them who you are, proving who you are. Really be genuinely curious about other people. And I find when you do that, then you can build that relationship so much stronger and so much better. And take action too. When you meet somebody, if you talk about going to have lunch, we talked about going to Galatoire's with Lucius when he came in. Within a couple days, Steve has followed up. He said, "I've got reservations. This is when it, what can we do?" Follow up. So many times you talk to people and you're like, "Yeah, let's get together," or "I'd love to." Ask the question, "I'd love to meet you for coffee. When are you available? Let's get together and talk." That follow up, what percentage of people do it? Very small percentage. And you will make yourself stand out by being one of those people who actually says it and then follows up with what they say they're going to do. So anyway, this has been great. Thank you so much.